Good morning and welcome to Rose Red Homestead. And today, obviously, we are going to talk about how we stay warm in winter. And this video is not about any fancy, crazy things that we do. This is just our day-to-day staying warm, what we have in our house that we can use to stay warm, things that, pieces of equipment that we've put together and other acquisitions that we have that help us stay warm. So we like to keep our furnace at below 70 degrees in the wintertime. And that's usually the perfect temperature for when we're walking around, when we're making videos, when I'm working in the kitchen, baking. But when we sit at our computers or watch television, it can sometimes get a little bit cooler, and we like to stay cozy and warm. So we'll be showing you some things that we have stashed around the house to help do that. Now, we also know that in our area in particular, where the power outages are frequent, we just got notified of another planned one coming up next week, I think, that's going to be about 6 hours. Well, it's going to be 20 degrees on those days. And so for 6 hours, we are already prepared. We don't have to rush out to the store and buy anything because we are prepared for keeping warm whether or not the grid is up or down. And so we wanted to just share with you some of those things. Jim has lived much longer in a very cold climate than I have. I can just tell you that the coldest winters I ever spent were in Laramie, Wyoming, when I was up there doing my doctorate. And that's where I met Jim. And Jim kept telling me before winter hit that I needed to get a full-length, very warm wool coat. Well, I was raised in snow country in Utah, and I thought, oh, I'm going to be just fine, until I learned that I needed one of those long, long coats in wool and very heavy as I walked across campus, coldest I've ever been. And so he has some stories to tell you too, but the first line of defense in staying warm in winter is to layer clothing. Now, Jim is going to be in front of the camera in just a minute, and you will notice that he has layers on today. He has a couple of shirts on. I have layers on. And it starts with underwear and then your top layering and then layers on top of that so that you can either peel off or put on different things to keep you warm. After we sold our toy hauler trailer, I realized that I had left my very favorite fleece jacket, of course it was red, in the trailer closet, and it's gone forever. So I've sort of replaced it with this, what I like in a jacket, and I sometimes wear this around the house, but I like it to have a front closure. This has buttons. I really like to have pockets because my hands get cold. And so I have pockets in this one, and then this one has a hood. I don't like sweatshirt hoodies, but Jim has some of those, and he has a one that he wears around the house a lot. And so we have those types of things. In addition to, and we pretty much, if we were in the middle of a power outage and the weather was super cold, like in the 20s or lower, many of you have much colder temperatures than that, we would not be going out much at all. But we don't have to, because we have all of the supplies that we need to hold up here for days if necessary. But if we did have to go outside, I've got some really nice snow gloves. These are from my time in Wyoming. And then a different kind of a hat that I might put on and then put my hood over it. And then a scarf to keep my neck warm. And so those are just some of the things that we do inside and if for quick outside trips. A couple of days ago, Jim had me outside working on some propane stuff, helping him figure stuff out. And it was very cold. And so this is exactly what I wore to go out there and sit on a chair and read instructions while he did the thing. And so that's just some of the things. I'm going to take this off, and then I'm going to take the camera, and Jim is going to share a couple of stories with you.
Okay. I lived in Omaha for a number of years. I was originally assigned to Omaha when I was in the Air Force. Later, I ended up going back, and in the early 1980s, my previous wife and I ended up going out to dinner one night with her parents. And the temperature was about 75 below with a wind chill factor. And if you know anything about wind chills, it really freezes you up sometimes unless you have the right clothing on. When I went shopping a couple of days later at our local grocery store, went in, got all my stuff, and I was checking out. And on the front portion of the store where the doors were, there was a huge computerized printed sign. And basically it was this: who cares if your long johns are pink when it's 75 below? Which basically stated to me, when it's that cold, it doesn't matter that you wear the stereotypical clothing to stay warm, just stay warm.
So, Jim.
Yes, they're pink. And the same time frame, a friend of mine and I would run. We were runners. And we went out one morning, and I forgot to put my gloves on. Didn't think it was that bad. And we would normally go and run 5 or 6 miles and come back. This particular morning, we met in the middle of the street. We ran up the street, made the right turn, and we would make the left turn and then go out running. And this morning, that particular morning we made the left turn, made a right turn, and went back in. It was so cold. I didn't wear gloves, and my hands got frostbitten. And it still bothers me when it gets really cold. I have to wear gloves. Also, I still had a beard and a mustache. And with that, my mustache was completely frosted over. So part of this whole thing is stay warm, wear what you have to wear to stay warm, and don't think just because it looks like it's okay out there, it may not be.
So we thought that we would just take you on a little tour around certain spots in our home to just show you what we have set up for keeping warm inside the house. So the first thing that we're going to do is to go into the library. So here we are in the library. I have this whole wall of books, which is why we call it the library. My desk is across the room and our couch is here and we watch TV. So in this room we do a lot of sitting. I sit at my computer, or we sit in the evenings and watch TV for a couple of hours, and sometimes we get chilled. And so in this corner we just have this stack, and it's a stack of pillows and throws. Now, why pillows? Well, they're not for my head, because cold air is heavier than warm air, and so cold air sinks, and so the floor is the coldest part of your house unless you have heated flooring, which we do not. And this, even though the flooring looks like wood, it's not. It's porcelain tile that is made to look like wood, and so the floor is quite cold. And so what I will do is I put on a pair of socks, and then I put one of these pillows down on the floor, and I put my feet on the pillows to elevate them even just 4 inches. And then we have these throws. On Christmas dinner, David's fiance, who has a condition where she needs to take short little naps, needed to take a nap while we were all together. And she said, the guest room is a little bit chilly. Do you have a little throw that I can have? And so I pointed her to this stack, and she took a couple of throws and had a nice little sleep for just a little bit.
You're on.
So this large area right here, when we bought the house, it was for a huge TV. Well, I never like to have a television in the living room or in our bedroom, for that matter. I like just a single place where the TV is. And when we had our big dog Max, who was 106-pound German Shepherd that we adored, we kept his crate in here so that he could have a place of his own to go whenever he needed to. And then when we had some remodeling done in our kitchen a couple of years ago, we had them put in a large cabinet right here. And this cabinet serves a couple of purposes for us, but right here on this top shelf is, and on this top shelf right beside it, this is where we keep our extra quilts. And we probably have about 10 extra quilts. In the wintertime, we take one quilt from here and put it on our bed and have an extra quilt there for extra warmth. And so we also can use these if it's super cold and those throws in the other room aren't adequate. Then we can come here to the quilt cupboard and get a quilt that will keep us a little bit more warm. Next stop is out on our sleeping porch. Here we are on our sleeping porch, and As you know, we absolutely love this sleeping porch. In fact, we can't wait for winter to pass so we can use it more frequently. But we've been out here even in the winter. And we've eaten out here a couple of times. 2 days ago, we were sitting right here at the table, wrapped in throws, with one of our space heaters that we're going to show you in a few minutes going, so that we could watch the rainstorm that was coming in from this side. And it's just glorious. We love the feeling of being outside but being protected a little bit. Here is the bed on our sleeping porch. I've taken down the dust cover and folded it here. It usually goes up like this, like a tent, to keep the dust off of it. But I just wanted to show you that we now have an electric blanket on our bed out here, and it's dual controlled, so that makes it really nice. We don't use it very much in the wintertime, although we did sleep out here on Christmas Eve, which was just so delightful. It was pretty cold, but we snuggled up under this electric blanket and slept until 4 o'clock when the wind came up so bad, and the wind noise didn't allow us to get back to sleep, so we went back inside. And I will nap out here once in a while under the electric blanket, even with the cold, and it's just lovely. But the good thing about this is that we have tried it on our Bluetti, which, as you know, is a solar power station, and found that it only draws like 112 watts. And so we can run this electric blanket for a full 8 to 10 hours before it exhausts all of the stored power. So that means that we can get through a night with it. And if the grid goes down for long term in the middle of winter, we can take this blanket in and put it on our bed. And even though our bed is a larger size, we could still run this and keep warm under that blanket if necessary. So it is another good option that we have available. All right, well, here we are, standing at the side of the house, and like every house in our little neighborhood here, we have a large propane tank. And so we have hooked our generator, right here, we have hooked our generator. We bought just one of those generators, not a big expensive thousands of dollars generator, but it was a dual fuel. It uses either gasoline or propane, and of course we use the propane side of it. It's a good solid generator, but it is not one of the super expensive ones, because we have other ways of heating our home, of course. But what we have done is we have plumbed it directly into our propane line right here. So our son-in-law put in this receptacle so that he could add it to our home electrical wiring, and we now have 4 rooms in the house that are covered by our propane generator. And that's our master bedroom, the living room where the fireplace is, so we have the electrical to run the fan on the fireplace, the kitchen so we can run our kitchen appliances, and then the library, where we have a lot of things there that are important to us to have electrical for. So that's our backup if we go off grid for an extended period of time. And we could run it that way for as long as our propane lasted in our big tank, and provided we can continue to get propane fuel. If that goes away, which I believe the possibility exists in dire circumstances, then we would have to go to some of our redundancy plans for that do not require propane. So here we are with our 2 favorite space heaters. Now, over the course of the time that we have been doing our channel, we have tried out a whole lot of different ways to heat us in the cold spots of our home, using various types of equipment, including other space heaters. But as it has boiled down to reality, as the years have passed by and we've tried out everything and continued to use the things that we have, these are the 2 that we have settled on that we really like the most. If the grid is up, or if we are running our generator that keeps the electrical going in 4 rooms of the house, this is our favorite one to use as a space heater. It is infrared, but it requires electricity, and we were so hoping that this one we would be able to run off grid using our Bluettis. In fact, we took it up to the cabin. In fact, we took 2 of them up to the cabin last spring when it was still really cold, and before we got the solar working up there to provide us with electricity. And we took one of our big Bluettis, and we just thought, well, we can just run the heater in our bedroom and be just cozy warm all night long using the power that had been stored in the Blue Eddy solar power station. Well, how long did it last, Jim?
2 days,
Oh no.
about a half hour.
It lasted only a half an hour before it had drained the Blue Eddy. And as Jim said, we got really cold. So it was a hard night sleeping that night until we were able to get up and feel safe about putting a fire in the fireplace again. So we learned that this one is not a great one for off-grid use unless you have alternative power that will run part of your electricity. But contrary to this one, this is the one that we will be relying on if there is no electrical, if the power goes down and our generator isn't working for some reason. So this is one of our backups, and we really love these Mr. Heaters. We have a couple of them. We have one that's just smaller than this one that has one canister. This one is fairly new, and it has 2 canisters. And we use these out on our sleeping porch to keep us warm when we're out there on cold, cold days. We just love that space so very much and want to use it all that we can. But propane canister, depending on how high the heater is, this propane canister will last 45 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on the heat setting. And Jim, how much did you pay for this one?
I'm originally out at the store where we normally go. I think it was about $12 each. I think I got 4.
That's what I remember too. And that's when this was brand new, and we were
Yeah.
so excited to try it that
Yeah.
we went to do that. And it just depends. In your area, the price may be very different. In our area, the price ranges from about $6 to $12, depending on the store that you go to. And so that's kind of expensive to run. So we decided to check out an alternative. Flame King produces these little canisters that are very the same as these, only you can refill them yourself from a larger tank, from a 20-pound tank. And so we decided to try that out. And I will put the link below to the little kit that we got. And we have tried it out. In fact, is this our full one?
That's the full one.
And we used it to heat the porch the other day. So it was doing just fine. As a replacement for this, instead we used this, and it worked great. But the great thing is, now these are not cheap. To buy these empty, these are, sometimes you can get them on sale for about 15, but mostly they're between 18 and 20. And but the refill is where you start saving big money. So comparing this at $6 to $12, it cost, not counting the cost of the canister itself, I calculated the cost. We just bought a brand new 20-pound tank because we did not have one that size. We usually have larger ones. But we bought a 20-pound tank, and for the price that it cost us to fill that tank, it cost us 53 cents to fill this refillable canister. And so it's quite a savings. You recover there's a quick return on your investment if you are doing a lot of heating and using these up. So we're quite pleased with that. So we've tried those out. We like it a lot. And these are our 2 best ways of keeping cold spots in our home warm in times when the grid goes down. So this has just been kind of a little field trip around our place to show you how we are prepared to keep ourselves warm, either when the grid is up or when the grid is down. And so I hope that you have gained some insight into things that you might consider for yourself, and share with our community what you do at home to keep yourselves warm in the wintertime, both if the grid is up or if the grid is down. So thank you so much for being with us, and we will see you again very soon for more videos.